The snowstorm howled across the desolate mountains, swallowing sound and vision in its white fury. The rails, two thin streaks of frozen steel, stretched endlessly into the horizon, cutting through the wilderness like the sharp edge of a blade. Upon them lay a woman in a crimson dress embroidered with faded golden flowers, her wrists and ankles bound cruelly with rope. Beside her chest, cradled against her shivering body, was a newborn swaddled in rough wool. The baby's cries pierced the storm, fragile but unrelenting, a desperate cry for survival. Her name was Mei Lin, and her heart thundered with both terror and defiance. The ropes dug into her skin, cold and unyielding, but it was not the pain she feared. It was the figure that emerged from the swirling snow, a man riding a white horse, cloaked in a heavy fur coat. His black hat shaded his eyes, but Mei Lin knew those eyes well, sharp, merciless, and haunted. He was the hunter who had chased her across frozen rivers, through jagged valleys, and now, at last, to this place of iron and despair. His name was Viktor Draganov. The story of how Mei Lin and Viktor had crossed paths was not one of chance. It was one of betrayal, blood, and the clash of two worlds. Mei Lin, once a singer in a bustling city far from these cold mountains, had fallen in love with a man she thought gentle and kind. That man, however, turned out to be Viktor's sworn enemy, a revolutionary who sought to overthrow the criminal empire Viktor had built on smuggling weapons and opium across borders. When her lover was executed before her eyes, Mei Lin had fled with the only thing left of him, their newborn son. Viktor wanted the child, not out of mercy, nor affection, but because the boy represented a threat. If raised in the spirit of his father, the child could one day grow into the blade that would cut down Viktor's empire. To Viktor, that was unacceptable. And so, in the dead of winter, he had hunted Mei Lin across the wilderness. The horse's hooves thudded against the frozen earth, muffled by the snow, until he stopped just a few feet away from her. Viktor dismounted with the grace of a predator, his boots sinking into the snow as he strode forward. Mei Lin's chest tightened, but she forced herself to remain still, whispering softly to her baby even as her lips trembled. "Shish, little one, you mustn't cry. You must endure." The baby's tiny fists waved helplessly in the air, the cold stinging his fragile skin. Viktor's shadow fell over them, dark against the pale snow. He crouched, his gloved hand reaching out, brushing the baby's cheek. For a fleeting moment, something almost human flickered across his face, but it vanished just as quickly, replaced by the familiar mask of cruelty. "You should not have run," Viktor said, his voice deep and gravelly, carrying the weight of command. "You knew you could not escape me. And now, look where you've brought your child." Mei Lin met his gaze, her dark eyes burning with defiance despite her weakened body. "If you want him, you will have to kill me first." Viktor's lips curved into a cold smile. That was always the plan. The storm raged louder, snowflakes stinging her face like shards of glass. Mei Lin closed her eyes, her mind racing for a way out. She had tried to free herself from the ropes until her wrists bled, but they were tied with skill. She had screamed for help until her throat burned, but no one came. And yet, in the back of her mind, there was a whisper of hope. Somewhere beyond these mountains, there was a resistance, her lover's comrades, men and women who would die before allowing Viktor's reign of terror to continue. If she could survive long enough, if she could keep her child alive, perhaps rescue would come. Viktor stood, pulling a revolver. From beneath his fur coat, its silver barrel gleamed against the white backdrop. He cocked the hammer with a deliberate click, pointing it at her. "The tracks are fitting, don't you think? A stage for your final act. I'll leave your body here. When the next train comes, no one will ever know your story." Mei Lin's heart raced. She thought of her son, of the warmth of his small body against hers, of his future that hung by a thread. She could not die here. Not like this. Summoning her last ounce of strength, she shifted her body, curling protectively around the baby. Snow seeped into her clothes, but she ignored the cold. Her voice, weak yet steady, cut through the wind. "You can kill me, Viktor. But you cannot kill his spirit. One day, someone will rise against you. And when they do, it will be because of him." For the first time, Viktor hesitated. His eyes narrowed, studying her, the revolver trembling ever so slightly in his grip. The baby's cries grew louder, almost as if he sensed the tension in the air. Viktor stepped back, lowering the gun, and let out a harsh laugh that echoed across the valley. "Perhaps you are right. Perhaps his spirit will rise. But he will not rise with you." Before Mei Lin could react, Viktor grabbed the baby, yanking him from her arms. She screamed, thrashing against the ropes, her cries raw with desperation. The child's wails filled the frozen air, louder, shriller, more urgent. Viktor mounted his horse once more, the infant cradled in his powerful arms. No, Mei Lin's voice tore from her throat, ragged and broken. Please, Viktor, he is all I have. Viktor's expression was unreadable, but his words cut like blades. Then you have nothing. With a sharp tug of the reins, he turned the horse and began to ride away, disappearing into the snowstorm, the baby's cries fading with him. Mei Lin lay bound on the tracks, her heart shattering into pieces. The storm raged on, and in the distance, the faint, haunting whistle of an approaching train pierced the silence. The whistle of the train grew louder, echoing through the snowy valley like the cry of a giant beast. Mei Lin's heart pounded in her chest, faster than the approaching thrum of wheels on steel. She pulled at her bindings with frantic strength, the rough rope tearing deeper into her wrists, but it was useless. Her eyes darted left and right, snow swirling in a blinding dance, the world reduced to the biting cold and the sound of death racing closer. Her baby, her son, his cries were already fading into the storm, carried off by the man who had stolen everything from her. Rage burned hotter than the cold, fiercer than fear. Mei Lin felt her body tremble, not just from exhaustion, but from the sheer force of her will. She could not die here. She refused to let Viktor win. With a desperate twist, she rolled her shoulder against the sharp edge of the rail, grinding the ropes against it. The steel was icy, but its roughness began to wear at the fibers. Her breath came in sharp bursts, her lungs screaming for air, but she pushed harder, ignoring the pain that shot through her arms. Each second, the train thundered closer, its shriek now a roar that shook the earth beneath her. The vibration rattled her bones, urging her to hurry. Then, snap, the first rope frayed and broke. A surge of adrenaline shot through her veins. Mei Lin clawed at the remaining bonds, rubbing them furiously against the rail, her skin tearing open, blood mixing with the snow. The ground trembled. The massive engine loomed into sight, its black form monstrous against the white landscape, smoke billowing like the breath of a dragon. At last, with a final, desperate tug, the rope gave way. Mei Lin wrenched her legs free and rolled off the track just as the train thundered past, missing her by inches. The blast of wind and snow that followed knocked her flat, her heart hammering in her throat. She lay gasping, staring up at the gray sky, her body aching, but alive. Alive, and burning with vengeance. Her son was out there. And she would get him back. Dash dash dash. The storm had not lessened, but Mei Lin forced herself to move, staggering through the snow in the direction Viktor had gone. Each step was agony, her feet were numb, her wounds raw, but she pushed forward. She followed the faint trail of hoofprints, half buried in the snow yet still visible to her determined eyes. Hours blurred into one another as she trudged through the wilderness, the cold biting deeper, but the thought of her baby's cries kept her legs moving. At last, as night fell, she spotted a glow in the distance, a fire. She crouched low, her breath shallow, and crept closer. From behind a ridge, she saw Viktor's camp. His horse stood tethered to a post, steam rising from its flanks. A small tent sheltered the fire, and inside, Viktor sat, cradling the child in one arm while drinking from a metal flask. The baby whimpered softly, too exhausted to cry. Mei Lin's heart clenched, every instinct screamed at her to charge forward, to snatch her son from his arms, but she forced herself to stay hidden. Viktor was armed, alert, and merciless. To face him unprepared would mean death, for both her and the child. She needed a plan. Slowly, silently, she gathered what she could. A sharp shard of rock, jagged enough to cut, a fallen branch sturdy enough to serve as a weapon. Her hands trembled, not from the cold this time, but from anticipation. She whispered to herself, over and over, a mantra of courage. For you, my son. For you. Dash dash dash. Midnight descended. The storm eased, leaving the world eerily quiet, blanketed in silver by the pale glow of the moon. Mei Lin crept closer, each movement slow, measured, her body pressed low against the snow. The fire crackled softly, casting long shadows that danced across Viktor's hardened face. He seemed half asleep, his head bowed slightly, the baby wrapped snugly in his thick coat. Mei Lin's breath caught. She was close enough now to hear her son's soft breathing. Tears stung her eyes, but she swallowed them down. Now was not the time for weakness. She raised the shard of rock, ready to cut through the flap of the tent, or Viktor's throat if she had to. But before she could move, Viktor's voice cut through the silence, deep and mocking. You think I don't hear you, Mei Lin? Her blood froze. Viktor lifted his head, his eyes gleaming in the firelight. He shifted the baby into one arm and reached for his revolver with the other. His smile was cold, cruel, as always. You're persistent, I'll give you that. Most would have let the train take them. But not you. You keep crawling back, like a wounded wolf. Mei Lin stepped into the light, her makeshift weapon trembling in her grip. Give him back, Viktor, she hissed. He is not yours to take. Viktor chuckled, standing slowly, the revolver aimed at her. And what will you do if I don't? Kill me, with that rock. You are brave, Mei Lin. But bravery without power is nothing. Her eyes flicked to her son, his tiny face peaceful against Viktor's chest. Rage surged through her, blinding and absolute. She lunged. The world became chaos. Viktor fired, the shot echoing like thunder, but Mei Lin had thrown herself sideways, the bullet grazing her arm. Pain flared, but she ignored it, slamming the rock into his wrist. The revolver flew from his hand, landing in the snow. The baby cried out, woken by the struggle, his wails filling the night. Viktor roared, swinging a fist that sent Mei Lin sprawling to the ground. Her vision blurred, stars exploding before her eyes, but she forced herself up. She grabbed the fallen branch, wielding it like a spear, and thrust it at Viktor. He caught it, snapping it in two with brute strength, and grabbed her throat, lifting her off the ground. You should have stayed on those tracks, he growled, his grip tightening. At least then your death would have been quick. Mei Lin clawed at his arm, her lungs screaming for air. Her son's cries pierced her ears, fueling her desperation. Her hand brushed against the shard of rock still clutched in her palm. Summoning the last of her strength, she slashed it across Viktor's face. He roared in pain, dropping her. Blood streamed from a gash across his cheek. Mei Lin stumbled, gasping for breath, and dove for the revolver in the snow. She grabbed it, her fingers numb, and turned it on him. For the first time, Viktor froze. His eyes, wild with fury, met hers. Do it, he spat, his voice filled with venom. But know this, kill me, and you'll become like me. There is no escape from blood. Mei Lin's hands shook, the revolver heavy in her grip. She thought of her lover, executed by this man. She thought of the nights spent running, of the cold, the fear, the helplessness. She thought of her son, whose future depended on her choice. Her voice was steady when she answered. No, I will never be like you. And she pulled the trigger. The shot rang out, shattering the silence. Viktor staggered back, his eyes wide, before collapsing into the snow. His body lay still, crimson spreading across the white. The storm carried away his final breath, leaving only silence and the crackle of the dying fire. Mei Lin dropped the gun, her body trembling, and rushed to her son. She cradled him against her chest, tears streaming freely now, soaking his tiny face. He calmed at her touch, his cries fading into soft whimpers. She pressed her lips to his forehead, whispering through sobs. You are safe now. You are safe, my love. The dawn came slowly, painting the mountains in hues of gold and silver. Mei Lin wrapped her son securely in her arms and began walking. She did not know where the path would lead, through snow, through hardship, through endless trials, but she knew one thing with unshakable certainty. She would never stop walking. Never stop fighting. For her son, for his future, for the spirit of hope that no tyrant, no empire, could ever extinguish. And as the wind carried her footsteps away, Viktor's empire trembled. Because sometimes, the fiercest warrior was not a man with a gun, but a mother with nothing left to lose.